Hello and welcome to this episode of Own the Journey. Today we have a special guest with us, Micheal Lawrence with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And our goal always is to bring great wisdom from great leaders and business experts from around the world. And so we're really excited to hear from you, Micheal, and learn a little bit about your journey. So if you wouldn't mind to just start off by sharing a little bit about what it's been to migrate into the CEO role of one of the most successful nonprofit organizations in America.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you a long story if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So here's how I was introduced to the mission. I grew up in Butler, Missouri, small town in rural Missouri. Was encouraged by coaches and teachers to go to college, so I was the first person in my family to go to college. Wow. I went to William Jewell College. I got a psychology degree, and I knew early on I wanted to work with kids. That's clearly what I wanted to do. So my first job out of college, I served as a runaway counselor. So we worked with kids who ran away from home. So we would take in young people, we would interview them, and either send them back home with a lot of help and support, or in tough situations, take children away from their families, put them into state custody, and find living arrangements for them. Wow. Did that for 2 years, became the director of the program, and it was sad, right? It was frustrating, it was depressing, and really it was hard because it was a state-run program. No room for innovation, no room for flexibility. We followed the steps of the state, right? So I was becoming disheartened with my experience, but one Saturday afternoon, I sat down with a young man. He was 13 years old. He was in a bad spot. And when I looked at him and said, look, you may never see your family again, he said, can I still see my big brother? Well, I'd interviewed him the night before. He wasn't talking about a sibling. He was talking about his big brother, two big brothers, big sisters. And wow. I just thought that was powerful, right? Yeah. In this moment of crisis and chaos and change, this young person only cared about a volunteer. So I watched this big brother come see this boy the next few weekends. I was like, all right, I got to be a part of this, right? So I started doing some research about becoming a big brother myself and found out there was an entry-level position open at Big Brothers Big Sisters Kansas City. Interviewed for that job, was accepted, and now 29 years later I serve as the CEO. Wow. And I've grown up with this organization. So I started out working directly with the children and families using my psychology background and my passion for helping kids. But after 5 years, I was asked to step into fundraising. I didn't have fundraising experience, but I was always volunteering and helping and doing the extra stuff to help our fundraising team. And they were looking for someone to lead that initiative. I stepped in to give it a shot, and then managed all of our fundraising for a decade, while also for a couple of summers serving as our marketing director. And then I took over leading our direct service team. So it was my first chance to lead people. And yeah, long story short, I've grown up with Big Brothers Big Sisters, been in nearly every position. My wife was the finance director. That's how we met. Nice. So it's a huge part of my life, but it's something I've had an opportunity to be at every single position within the agency.
I think that's absolutely outstanding because it provides the ability, what I think is one of the most important components of leadership today is to have empathy of what it means to do the job. And a lot of organizations just don't have that appreciation. People move right into a leadership role, but they've never been the boots on the ground, never had to dial for dollars and go through that challenge. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and it puts me in a position where I've never asked anyone to do something that I haven't done or that I don't understand. Right. I love this role as CEO of building the team, setting the strategy, all those things. But those first few years of working directly with the children and families and hearing the stories, I've served as a big brother myself for years. So just knowing what our mission is all about, knowing from every angle, to your point of also doing the fundraising and recruiting volunteers and putting out the messaging, just gives a different perspective when you have that angle of you've seen it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think one of the big challenges that a lot of small and medium-sized businesses have is that they get into operations mode, but they lose track or maybe even never develop their why. Obviously, you've got a huge why, one of the most important in the country. Talk to us just a little bit about how the why ties into the culture of the organization and how that leads to more success.
Yeah, I think, if you're not familiar with Big Brothers Big Sisters, quite simply, we create friendships that wouldn't naturally exist, but not just friendships, powerful, meaningful, long-term, one-to-one friendships between children and teens who want and truly need a mentor in their life, and adults who are willing to share time to be the difference. Basically, we partner with our parents, we work alongside our bigs, and we clear the path to the biggest possible future for every little brother and little sister. So it's a very meaningful mission. It means a lot to me and our staff and our team and our community. It's a simple concept, right? Take people who could use another positive person in their life, a good person who's willing to share their time, put the right people together, coach them up, keep them together, and we see remarkable outcomes. So when you have a strong mission like that, it's easy to get excited about it and get behind it. And then you create an award-winning culture to go with a really strong mission and strong brand. To add in great amenities that we've created for our staff, and it's a kind of an unfair advantage for us to recruit the amazing people of Kansas City to come work for our team, to be a part of an award-winning culture, doing great things.
Well, I think it was one of the things that stood out to me. Not only are you recognized as the best Big Brothers and Big Sisters nationwide, but you're recognized as having one of the best cultures in the nonprofit industry nationwide as well. How have you been able to make that happen?
Nonprofit Times Magazine interviews nonprofits all around America, and there are more than 1 million nonprofits in the country, right?
Wow.
So it's a process of interviewing our employees, completing some surveys, actually submitting our policies and procedures, our turnover rates, all those things. And then Nonprofit Times Magazine rates the companies, and we came out number 5 out of the 100,000 that went into intensive review.
That's unbelievable.
So clearly there's something there that's working when you're hearing it from our team, not just our marketing team saying, hey, we're really good. It's our employees talking about what we offer. And I think one of the common themes is that we use a common sense approach to everything we do. So we're structured like a business, we're very outcomes oriented, we always measuring performance, but setting atop all of it is common sense. We've also heard from employees that it feels like a family-owned business, right? It's a nonprofit where we have a mission. It's not my mission or Big Brothers, Big Sisters mission. It's our mission to make a difference. So I think that's important, is to always know the why, make sure the employees know the why. But it's a simple concept, but man, it needs to make sense, right?
Yeah,
if your employees believe that what you're doing is coming from common sense, they'll follow.
They'll follow along in an environment, a political climate where everything seems to be so polarizing. I think good, well-run businesses and organizations can be that central point, that hub, if you will, that provides a sense of foundation for people that they really need in today's world.
Absolutely, and compensation is always going to be a topic, right? Always. We invest in comp studies to make sure that we are, competitive, and we're above competitive.
Wow.
So again, when you take all those things and you're paying properly, it's a good combination.
It does put you in a real special place.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say to the business of the CEO, maybe who's struggling to communicate the purpose of the business down to the employee so that it makes sense to them? How would you help them to draw that correlation?
Yeah, certainly. Again, we have this clear advantage that we're living a mission, right? So the product that we're selling is life-changing friendships. That's pretty easy to sell.
Yeah.
But no matter what the product is, I think people have to see that the CEO, the leader, believes in it, and that they get behind it. They believe that they're doing something that's good, whether that's a good product, a good experience, a good service, whatever it is. They just have to see that it's important. So I think you can take the same passion that we get to experience as a nonprofit leader and share that with whatever the service or product is.
Yeah, and then bring that with them, if you will, the what's in it for me, all the way down to the front line and empathize with them about what it means to
Exactly, and if the front line gets as excited as the leadership, then you've got a real good thing there.
You got a special thing. Yeah. So I think there's a real special story that you guys have been able to bring to Kansas City as it relates to the relationships and the experiences that you're able to create, and how you're actually running the nonprofit. You're doing some really innovative things in order to raise money, but to create some positive experiences. You had to get outside the box and a little bit creative. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, to stay relevant, you have to be innovative. You have to keep things fresh. So we talk about a nonprofit structured like a business. It really does look like a business. You look at our org chart and it looks just like a business. One of the examples I can give is our marketing is done in-house. Okay. Most nonprofits will outsource or go the pro bono route. They'll go to a marketing firm and work with that firm. That firm's donating their time, so they get pushed to the bottom of the list. Everything slows down. About 15 years ago, we really recognized the power of a good brand. So we brought our marketing in-house, and we have a really talented marketing team so that we can be responsive and innovative. We can be nimble. right? Keep everything fresh. If we have an idea, we can execute on it immediately.
Right.
So that's just one example of what it's like to be a nonprofit structured like a business, but I think it's the right message for any business, right? If your brand is critically important, invest in that area of your business and stay relevant, stay fresh, be nimble. I think those are, a few of the key things from the structure side. When it comes to getting innovative, fundraising, so it's our lifeblood.
Right.
We rely on other people to be inspired to get involved. So we have to get creative on how people can get involved. So we want to remove as many barriers as possible. So we create ways for large corporations, small to medium-sized companies, individuals, families to get involved and support us. I would say one of the things that we're often asked about is this golf tournament that we created. If you mind talking about,
yeah,
is that cool?
Please tell us.
Yeah. So, we had these remarkable events and we were having great success, but we were not interacting with Kansas City's business elite. So we thought, let's create something that brings the leaders of our city together. So we went out, did some research, found the best golf tournament in Kansas City, and said, well, let's do better, right? So we created what we call client entertainment golf. So in the nonprofit fundraising world, typically you're competing for philanthropy, right? And those dollars are tight, they're already spoken for, very competitive. But when we started focusing on client entertainment and saying, let's put on events that our corporate partners would bring their best clients to, that'll open up a different checkbook, right?
It is.
And they'll spend different money if it's marketing and entertainment. So we set out to create the best client entertainment experience in Kansas City with our golf tournament, and we've done that. It has that reputation. It's a can't miss event you bring your best clients to. And then our sponsors, they look like heroes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're giving their clients a great day. The whole time it's all about Big Brothers Big Sisters. People are learning about us. We have met most of our board members, our top sponsors on the golf course, and built a relationship, and now they have their employees involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters. They're making us one of their priorities with their corporate giving. So it's that type of thinking of, rather than competing for every philanthropy dollar, let's create our own way, to find our own lane to different fundraising.
Define your own lane, and now you have a waiting list just to come to the golf course.
Yeah, it's $6,000 a foursome. We do it twice to keep up with demand, 72 teams, and there's a waiting list to get in.
That's unbelievable. I think most nonprofits around the country would fight to have that opportunity. Congratulations.
What's cool about it is it's not the bottom line to raise the most dollars possible at that event. That's clearly the way we do it. It's over the top. We spoil our golfers. They've never seen anything like it. That's expensive to do it that way. But we're trying to build relationships, make introductions, and lead to something long term. And we embrace that, right? This is not the cheapest golf tournament put on. It's not the most profitable, but it is remarkable from a relationship building standpoint. And it's grown over time to be recognized as one of Kansas City's top 5 fundraising events. So it's just a good effort.
So it goes back to the relationships and the experience, people remembering how you make them feel, and all the things that we learn about when it comes to running a well-run business all the way around, or obviously a nonprofit as well. So when you had to come into an organization and rebrand it and go through all these challenges, I mean, you made such an impact not only in the Kansas City market, but as I understand it, you were asked to help rebrand it nationwide. Is that right?
Yeah, so in 2018, I got a call from the Big Brothers Big Sisters CEO, Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, and asked if I would lead an effort to rebrand Big Brothers Big Sisters across the entire country.
Wow.
So we're talking about 300 agencies, across the U.S., 150,000 children, and a brand that was, it's been around for a long time.
For sure.
So that was a unique challenge, right? So I took that challenge on a couple of conditions. One, I said I want to choose the marketing firm that we work with because I trusted the leader, the CEO of Barkley, advertising firm here in Kansas City. I said, I trust that leader. And he was a big brother, right? So he knew the mission, knew the story. Second was I wanted to create the task force to put this on because I wanted to be balanced. So I selected 18 leaders from across the country of Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, small, medium, large, new leaders, and veteran leaders, and brought them all together.
Wow.
Brought them to Kansas City for a few different sessions. Over an 18-month period, we really did a ton of research and focus groups and tried a lot of things. And we came up with a brand new brand, look, taglines, our what we call the red thread, what is woven throughout us that drives us as an organization.
Sure.
Put all that together, came to a national conference where we had thousands of people there, rolled out the new brand, and it was remarkable. They absolutely just loved it. It had a 93% approval rating from the 300 agencies across the U.S. So it was a win. It was really big.
How did you, I mean, when you think in turning that into small business, in a location that has multiple locations, they're trying to roll out a new brand or they're trying to do anything, it's hard to get people on the same page to agree to anything, let alone 300 locations on a brand that they maybe weren't even a part of. How did you get that accomplished?
Yeah, it is a challenge. You think about Big Brothers Big Sisters, it's like a franchise model. We have a territory here in the Kansas City metro area. We pay dues to the national office to use the logo and the likeness, and then we agree to follow best practices to keep our children safe. Outside of that, you're open to do it however you do it. Your own marketing, fundraising, all of that. So we wanted to create a brand that would make sense across the entire U.S. And the heart of our brand is this idea that at Big Brothers Big Sisters, we don't create potential, we defend it. So that was the angle that we took, that we are the defenders of potential. Every child has potential. We just, as I said earlier, cleared the path, right, to create the biggest possible future and defend the potential for our children. So that idea of coming together and collectively we're working with our bigs, our littles, our parents, and our agencies to defend potential. People just really got behind that. So that was well received. The logo was fresh and new. Taglines were all good. Colors, we use a lot of color science and all the stuff you do. But when we rolled it out, people were excited about it. They were energized by it. And then we created a platform that made it accessible to everyone. We're fortunate to have our own marketing team. Most Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies do not.
Right.
So we created a content library that was available to every agency, no matter what size.
Nice.
And that made everything that we created available to everyone.
Yeah, well, you guys made it easy to get behind. It's well done. What did you learn going through that process about the branding and the importance of it and getting it right and A/B testing and all the things that you go through?
Yeah, you learn that, gosh, you can be too close sometimes, right? You believe in your own brand, you believe in your own stories. But when you open it up to input from others and blind studies and all that stuff, you learn a lot. You learn what's the consumers think.
Right.
What are the people who are seeking you out? What do they experience? So we did experience audits. We looked at everything to try to create the right moment, the right style. So I think the advice would be to don't be blinded by your own success or what you've grown up with or what's so important to you personally if you're trying to reach the masses or reach a consumer group.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I love to share with our organizations is that you have to love the truth even when you don't like it. And sometimes that's not always easy. So when you went through this big rebranding process and you did all this, it created a new set of initiatives and a new set of strategies, I guess, for the organization. How long did it take for that to really set in and start?
Yeah, I'd say it took a good, probably 8 to 12 months for it to really roll out across the U.S. and for people to really embrace it, make the adjustments. And rebrands are expensive. If you've ever been through it, there's a lot of logo out there. So to replace all those logos, get everybody on board, to change the language, it took a while. But you could start seeing the progress and seeing more people come in. The greatest need for Big Brothers Big Sisters across the United States is for more men to become Big Brothers. About 70% of the children on a waiting list at any Big Brothers Big Sisters agency are boys without fathers. So we built this brand and this taglines and all of our messaging, it was to specifically attract men to get involved. And when we started seeing an increase in Big Brother applications across the country, we knew it was working.
Yeah, so I think being patient is a part of that process, making sure that you understand the audience and then obviously speaking to them in the right ways to get the outcomes that you want. Outstanding. So you mentioned that through the golf tournament is one of the areas that you've met some of your board members. Obviously, in a nonprofit environment, the board is a critical part of the organization. Talk to us a little bit about how your board has come together. How long do people serve on the board? What's appropriate?
So all nonprofits are required to have a board, right? That's part of your tax status and all of that. So you're required to have a board. So some nonprofits treat that as a burden, that they have to have a board.
Right.
We see it the other way. It's a huge advantage for us. You think about it, if any small company could go out and hand select a board and have them available to you, you would take that every single day, take all the advice you could get for free.
Yes.
So we embrace that idea, right? So back in 2008, 2009, we were growing as an agency, but we recognized that our board was very casual, right? So we set out to create a high-performing board. So with that, we set very, very clear expectations of what it's like to be a board member, and we embraced this idea that let's bring the most talented people that we can together and have them on our team, and let's hear from them, let's listen to them. But what we discovered is, like most people in business, if you're successful, it's because you're killing goals, right? You're just crushing it.
Right.
So we knew to be a successful board member, you have to know what's killing it, what's crushing it, what's the goal here. So we were very, very clear with expectations. And we recruit people who are high achievers. We put them on our board, and we say, here's the line. This is the really, really good board member. And then we support them and challenge them to go above and beyond.
Wow.
So we have a unique structure, and then we have multiple boards. We have a board of 25 who are part of our agency, good-sized board. Amazing people, very, very committed, clear expectations, high accountability. Then we have a young professional board, about 40 members. It's a junior board structure, so it's just a replica of the board, but just younger and with smaller goals. Then we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion advisory board that is designed to help us recruit diverse volunteers and to be a voice and feedback to us as an agency.
Nice.
And then we have our own thrift business. It's a side business that we created to support ourselves, and that is a business board that has about 15 members. So we're in a position to manage 4 boards at once.
Wow, that's
but
a lot.
it gives an opportunity to have 75 to 80 people in the city, hand-selected, to be advocates for us, to be advisors, coaches. So it's just that whole idea of surround yourself by really good people and make sure you listen. So we structure our board meetings in thirds. The first third is looking back on what did we accomplish since the last meeting. The middle third is diving deep or learning something. And then the final third is strategy. Looking forward, what can we do? And that's probably the strength of our board, is you're informed, educated, and then participating in vision and strategy.
I love that format. I think there's a lot to learn, and I'm a big advocate for having a board in place for all businesses, because I think just like you mentioned, when you bring experts in and you listen to them, I mean, why wouldn't you take that advice and take advantage of it? How long does somebody typically stay on a board for you? What would you expect?
We do have term limits, so you can term limits are 3 years. 2 consecutive 3-year terms, so a maximum of 6 years.
Wow.
Maximum. Most of our board members serve the full 6. We're coming up on the end of the year. We have 5 people who've maxed out their term. We're interviewing now for candidates, and we have more people applying to our board than we have open spots, so it's a very competitive process.
Right, very good. Well, shifting back just a little bit to the culture within your organization, you talked about the market studies that you do for salaries and getting that right, and I would assume that you're having to compare nonprofits against nonprofits, or are you comparing against the public?
We do a little bit of both, we do a little bit of both. So we do an in-depth market study from the nonprofit perspective across the Midwest. So we're not just comparing titles, we actually spend the money to compare job descriptions and duties, so that we're apples to apples, right? Because every nonprofit's structured different titles, just like any company.
Sure.
You get creative with the title and you have no idea what that means and who to match that up to. So we do that, comparing ourselves to nonprofits. And then because of our board contacts, we also know what's the market rate for someone in marketing or sales, whatever it might be, accounting. So those positions are compared to the for-profit.
Yeah, very good. And how do you think, in an environment where keeping good talent is so hard, where turnover rates are hard, what's your advice? I mean, obviously culture is a big part of what you guys are doing. The mission is a lot, but at a certain point, there's going to be people that come and go. How do you guys do that?
It's tough, especially, we have 60 employees, so there's not a lot of room for layers. So we have to create professional development as part of our culture.
Okay.
So we try to develop our employees. we might be developing them to go somewhere else.
Yeah, for sure.
It's hard, but we hope they stay, right? So we develop every employee. That's important to us. We have a line item in our budget. We spend about $70,000 a year on just professional development of our team. So we want to build the best staff possible. Again, I go back to the beginning. We have kind of an unfair advantage when it comes to recruiting. So we bring great talent.
Right.
And then we want to develop that talent, so we have just a whole team of superstars. And I think that's important. I think people need to be challenged and want that opportunity to prove themselves and lead, but not everyone can step into a management role.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so certainly that. And I think a simple thing is just connecting. You can be so focused on your role or the mission that you sometimes need to step away. So about 5 times a year we commit to connecting as people, as humans, right? So we take a day where we step away from the day-to-day mission, we connect as individuals and just get to know each other, spend time together and connect. And having that connection within the building is helpful as well.
Yeah, no, that's outstanding for sure. And when it comes to the structure of your organization, just so everybody, you said 60 employees, the board of directors, and how many of those people are out focusing on the public side of it, and then how many of those are more like on the back end providing services? Or
so about 60% of our team are working directly with our children and families. They're either interviewing the volunteers or the children or making the match, putting the people together. And then our biggest team supports every match that we have. So we have a little over 1,200 children, little brothers, little sisters here in Kansas City. We support every one of them. As long as they're together, we're coaching and supporting the big, the little, the family. If we hear of an opportunity to help the family, we'll help the family. So that's our biggest team. And then we have community outreach that are out just telling our story, recruiters, right? And then our fundraising team, marketing, all of that. But the majority of the team is doing the direct service work. And so you think about, we've got 60 employees, about 80 board members, 1,200 volunteers, and then thousands of community members who are supporting us. So the reach just keeps expanding. Yeah,
well, congratulations for all that. That's absolutely outstanding. When you've gone through this journey, when you worked into in your environment, you told me a story about how you work with a lot of small companies and help them to develop a giving program, and that's something in our organization it's a little loosey-goosey. It's not always really clear about how and when we're going to pick who we pick. Tell us how you
this is we kind of got into this lane a few years ago of working with small to mid-sized companies, many of them startups or kind of getting established companies, and all of them tremendous leaders, great people. They want to be a part of Big Brothers Big Sisters, good people. We always hear the story that when I get this company going, I want to do good in the community. But they're so focused on building their company, they don't pause to do the good in the community that they really want to do. So our team steps in to help coach them on how to create their corporate giving plan, or their, to be a good corporate citizen, however you want to phrase it. So we help them build their plan. So it's a 1-year developed giving plan. And so you look back a year later and it feels really good that your company finally got that done. And we helped, right? We take that burden away and help coach each company to create their plan that feels good to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And what has that resulted in for your organization? I'm sure just huge.
Yeah, so we created this club of 20 CEOs in Kansas City who come together and spend time together, network and connect. They pay dues to be a member of the club, and then they encourage their employees to become bigs through Big Brothers Big Sisters or to support our events. So collectively that club has become one of our largest donors. Last year they raised over $300,000.
Wow.
So you take a group that maybe didn't have a plan a couple years ago, now they're part of a network, they've got their employees involved, and collectively they're one of our top sponsors.
Yeah, that's outstanding. So a topic that maybe is a little bit sensitive for some of the nonprofits, but I serve on a lot of nonprofit boards, and my perspective is just a little bit different. There's some people that look at it and they rank the success of the nonprofit based on what percentage of the donated dollar goes to provide services and what percentage doesn't, obviously. And I'm a believer, and maybe I'm teeing you up, but I'm a believer that if you're going to have a well-run organization, that you've got to invest in the infrastructure and the people and all of that. And just because a company or a nonprofit, has a large percentage that goes to provide services, that doesn't mean that they're a worthy nonprofit. It doesn't mean it's well-run and growing.
Yeah. Oh man, if I had a chart here, our org chart is a non-traditional org chart. It's a pyramid style with our little brothers sitting at the top, right? Our little brothers, little sisters. But the bottom of the pyramid is that we just talked about. Our board members, our volunteers, our leadership team, our marketing department, our finance department, the accounting. We're building the base so that we can support the people doing the direct service work. And you have to have a solid base. And I've seen too many nonprofits that are the opposite, right? They're trying to keep that overhead low, and they're very, very lean at the bottom. And it can tumble at any moment if you don't have the right base. Yeah. So I think it's important to be structured like a business, function like a business, reward employees so you can be sustainable and grow and do more.
Yeah, outstanding. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. I absolutely appreciate it. Cheers to you.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Cheers.
For owning your journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.